Let's talk about Metal Allegiance. And Metal Allegiance is
Sure.
already like celebrating 10 years of existence. And because it's not like let's say it's not like a band that's always like playing and touring, right? So the show that you guys are having at the House of Blues on January 25th is gonna be special.
Yes, January 23rd.
Oh, 23rd? It's in five? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's on a Thursday the 23rd.
Okay. Sorry. I just like
That's okay. And yeah, it is a very different situation. It is not a group that tours, so we get together once in a while for concerts. Last year we had two concerts, one in Anaheim as well at the same venue, House of Blues, one in New Jersey. And this year, so far, we just have the one, but every show is very special. No two shows are alike,
yeah.
and we always have a different lineup, a different set list. So even though you may have seen us before, you're never seeing the same show.
So do you remember how many shows in total you guys have done have made like through the years in these 10
Over the
years?
years, I haven't kept track, but I would say it's at least a couple dozen,
And
if not.
have you traveled abroad? Have you played like in other countries?
Yeah, we've done a few festivals in other countries. The most recent one was 2 years ago when we were down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, for Rock in Rio,
Mhm.
which was very exciting. I'd never played that festival before. A few years before that, went to Europe and we played the Bloodstock Festival in the UK.
All right.
And we did one show in Japan, and that was called the Loud Park Festival.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
And we did one show in Mexico too.
Oh,
But
Mexico too, in Ciudad de Mexico, in like the capital.
I believe so. I believe it was Mexico City.
Okay.
But that's it. That's other than that, and it was just in and out. It was one quick show.
So the core of the band is still like you, Mark Mengy, David Ellefson, and Mike Portnoy. And I'm reading that this time you will have like John Bush, you will have like Chuck Billy, Troy Sanders, Brand Taylor, Andreas Kisser, Bobby Blitz, Gary Holt, Doug Coyle, Hal Pyre, and Chris Paul. But also
Well, that was last year.
some surprise guests too.
Yeah, we always have a different lineup. We have returning guests, we have new guests. Last year we had Hell Pyre, Chris Poland, and a few others that aren't going to be there this year, but we have a lot of new folks that we have. So we to make room for them. We can't have the same lineup every year, but we have recurring people. We have John Bush coming back, Bobby Blitz, Chuck Billy, Gary Holt, who hasn't been there for a while, Andres Kisser, who's done many shows with us, but it's been
Yeah.
a while. But new folks who've never played with us before include Brandon Ellis of Black Dahlia Murder, Angel Vivaldi, and Doc Coyle, who has done a few shows with us, but he's relatively new to the group. And there are more as well. It's just hard to remember all the names.
hmm And what about the set list? Because you guys don't always you play some like thrash metal, but you play also like heavy metal. You play different types of like let's say hard rock and metal music, right? It's not only like thrash all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what's one of the great things about doing this group is that we're allowed to do any types of genres we want, any type of songs, and we've covered songs from the 70s, like Black Sabbath or Black Sabbath with Dio, songs from the 80s, um, even harder rock that's not necessarily metal, like Van Halen,
Yeah.
and of course a lot of heavier rock and metal like Metallica and Megadeth, and in fact Marty Friedman is one of our guests this
Okay,
year.
cool.
Really exciting. And yeah, we'll do a Testament song because we'll have my partner in Testament, Chuck Billy.
Sure.
but we cover a lot of bases. We've also done UFO, and Chuck has sang a UFO, and he sounds great
Yeah.
singing a song like Lights Out. So it's really all over the map.
And what is the process when you have to play? It's just like I suppose that it's kind of impossible just to meet everyone and then do like a rehearsal, but probably just the core of you guys just do it, or not necessarily, or you just do it everyone on their side and then you practice, then you get together and then you
So
just
basically, everybody is emailed a
yeah.
list of songs
Hmm.
and who is playing on what song. So everybody has their homework. You know what songs you have to work on. And then there is a rehearsal that takes place the night before the show. And it's usually a very intensive rehearsal. It goes for several hours, it's nonstop. And then there's a sound check the day of the show. And the sound check is also like a rehearsal, even though we're getting our stage sound and monitors and stuff like that together.
So you have a rehearsal the night before and usually the day before. Usually how long it lasts?
That lasts several hours. It usually
Mhm.
starts around 6 or 7, and we're there till midnight.
All
But of
right,
course, it's
right.
not the same people playing all the time.
Sure,
Every
sure.
song has a slightly different lineup, so you may sometimes it's arranged in such a way that some people only need to be there the first few hours, others need to be there the last few hours.
Sure, sure. So it's a good idea to rehearse just the night before. I mean, you don't have a choice anyway.
But we don't have a choice because everybody's all over the place. Everybody lives in different places.
Yeah,
But also they're all professionals.
sure,
So and a lot of the songs uh, for certain members they don't need rehearsal, but they'll do it anyway just to rehearse the other members. For example, if there's a song by Megadeth
mm,
and half of the group is David Ellefson and Marty Friedman, they probably don't need to rehearse that song, but
yeah,
the other members will, whoever's singing the song will need to rehearse it. Um, if there's a Testament song that we'll do, I won't say which one, but we'll do a Testament song. Chuck Billy and I really don't need to do that song,
sure.
but we certainly need to, go over the drum parts with Portnoy and the bass parts with whoever's playing bass and whoever the other guitarist is. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of one-on-one rehearsal as well.
So many of those songs, I mean, you mentioned, right? It's like it's pretty diverse. I mean, you can play like UFO or Sabbath, but you can also play like Testament and Megadeth, like that is like a very like muscular music. Are you like surprised that that most of you guys are still like doing this and playing because this is very intense. It demands a lot of from your body too, right? Besides the technique. So how do you feel when you were a kid, when you were like a teenager, and then you just got in Megadeth into like Testament? Did you ever thought? I mean, this is gonna be happening in the next future in 40 years? I don't think so, right? Because when you're a teen, you don't think about the future so much.
No, not so much. I thought, maybe I didn't think it would last past, 10 years.
Oh yeah.
And actually, and I stepped away from it for a while. I was
No, no,
mostly
no.
playing jazz and instrumental music for a long time and just studying and sort of developing a whole other side of my musicianship. But
Sure.
then I came back to it and yeah, somehow when I came back to it, it felt better than before and just the situation had changed. There were new fans. There was more appreciation for the music, and it wasn't this obscure music. It's also okay to do a project like this where at the time it almost felt like to do thrash metal, that's all you could do, and and if you do any other types of music, even heavy rock music that's not thrash, well,
Hmm.
you're not legitimate. You're not, what I mean? And now that's done. There's nothing to prove anymore.
Hmm.
So we can play songs by
Yeah.
virtuoso players that they respect it, but it's not not what they do, and it's totally fine.
Hmm.
So, but at the time, right, it was very hard to imagine. It was hard to imagine it uh, having such appreciation from audiences all these years later. And as a musician, yeah, it was hard to imagine still doing this type of music. But I think we've evolved. I think the music has evolved, and I think the respect for the music that we did back then has evolved.
But there's still a lot of like metal heads that are really strict, right? That they don't. They're still like saying, "Oh, this guy's a poser," or was whatever. I mean, there's still some people that really don't like their genres to be mixed. But I suppose it's different in the past. You say that in the past it was way worse.
Yeah, and I think those people, they've changed. You're always going to have those types, but um, I think they're in the minority, and a lot of them just grow out of it. But they grow up,
So
and the ones that don't, who cares?
how helpful was for you to do that, to just like take a break from the metal war and then to like study jazz and do all the other things because of course it gave you like a new ideas and new techniques and everything. It was probably it
Right.
was probably it was probably the right thing to do, right?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I wanted to see what the world is like outside of, just the scene that I was in. Heavy metal is is wonderful, but it can be a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
And it's the same social circles, it's the same musical circles. Not so much anymore. I think it's again, it's evolved a
Mhm.
lot. I think as the music has matured, as the people have matured who make the music. But at that time, yeah, I felt okay. There's a whole world out there. There's a whole world out there of other personalities, other types of music. So it was great for me personally just to exist outside of that and sort of find my identity outside of that, but then go back into it with this diversity, and also just the experience of just really committing to years of study to be to a professional musician on a serious level, which I didn't really have time to do in the beginning. I was 18 years old when we did that first Testament record. So while I was considered good, really good for my age,
Yeah.
um, I still I felt like I had so much development to do. So it was really good for me to step away and be able to develop these other sides.
And of course you're still like in great shape and I read that you never like party as crazy like many other musicians, right? You were like you weren't into like partying so much.
I could never keep up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always this we were yeah we there was a lot of partying, and I think it started to look really shallow and like a waste of time to me after a while, because okay, what's the point? You're gonna you know party. Well, what's all that's gonna bring you is a hangover the
Yeah.
next day. And I think it's fine to do once in a while. But yeah, I like to have a drink or two after the show. Maybe let a little more loose if it's a day off, and we've just done a week of shows and you have something to celebrate. But um, yeah, I could never understand that. I've seen so many musicians of different bands, and others just putting so much time and energy into partying, and it never makes sense.
And do you don't drink at all? Do you drink?
Oh, I do drink, yeah,
Oh yeah. What
but
do
a
you like?
couple, I I like to have a drink or two. Yeah, I never like to get trashed.
Yeah,
To me, that was never the point. And also, I have to like the drink. It has to be like a quality
sure.
wine or a craft beer
Mm.
or a good quality cocktail with a good bourbon. I won't drink just for the sake of drinking.
Yeah, yeah. Trashers are known for drinking like beer. It doesn't matter what what beer it is. It's just beer. But beer is a favorite like beverage for like
Yeah, I know if
for
all there
trashers.
is cheap beer, bottom shelf
Yeah.
wine or bottom shelf whiskey, I won't drink it.
Yeah, but anyway, even if you take care of yourself, and I'm not saying that these guys took care of themselves. I don't even know, but there's some stuff that can happen, right? Like unpleasant surprises, like what happened to Bobby Bliss with different health issues, or Chuck. You mentioned Chuck, he got cancer, and I think it wasn't related to his habits. I don't know. I don't think so, but still complicated, right? There's like I mean, when you start like
Yeah, I think his was unrelated. It was just
yeah.
a very, very low probability of getting that type of cancer, but it was just bad luck.
Yeah, so you can have like you can be unlucky, and this is something that will happen to anyone because we're just not getting younger. So, but
Uh,
you're like it seems like you're in good shape, right? You don't have to deal with anything too serious during
Knock
your
on wood. Yeah, I've been
yeah.
fortunate. I've
Okay.
also even for a long time, I've always uh, kept myself fit. I've always had a gym membership, not just after New Year's. I've always gone running.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of things that people do every day, like are things I don't do, like drinking soda.
You
You
don't
know,
drink soda. That's
I
good.
don't drink- yeah, I think that's to me, I think that's much worse than
It's terrible.
drinking cocktails. I think drinking yeah, like Cokes and things like that. It's I mean there are some people who drink it and live a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, apparently Warren Buffett is consumes a lot of Coca-Cola, but
wow.
uh yeah, I always felt like these are chemicals. These can't be good for you. Red Bull, I think, is probably really bad for you.
Yeah,
Fast food, like you'll never catch me at a McDonald's or a Burger King or a place like that.
that's good. That's good.
If the bus pulls up to one of those places, even if I'm very hungry, I'll just have I'll have some nuts or something like
Yeah.
that. I like to eat, but I'm not gonna eat things that are unhealthy.
What is
So
your
a long term, that really has an effect on you
So
too.
you mentioned it. I didn't want to talk about food, but just because you mentioned it, what is your favorite food? I mean, with a plate that you really like to eat.
Oh, I mean, there's so many, but a good South Indian meal is great.
That's
Or
good.
yeah, curries. I'm a big fan of
Oh,
all Indian food.
so how
Yeah.
long you been living in New York?
Over 20 years.
20 years. All right, all right. And you say before that one of the greatest things about like metal allegiance is like the idea of unity it provides, right? That people can do like great things together. Um, and that's interesting because not all the musicians that play with you guys think necessarily the same, I mean, in social and political terms, but you still do it for the sake
Mhm.
of metal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really done out of fun and just appreciation. It's nice to get out of our comfort zone and get out of the situation where we're part of a regular band, and even if the band is going well and getting along like Testament,
Mhm.
we still have to think about when we write songs, it's does it sound like Testament? Will the fans like it? And with Metal Allegiance, when we put the music together, that's the core four of us. We don't have to think about that at all. If we want to write a riff and maybe it sounds more like Mastodon than Testament or Megadeth, well, that's fine. And we can get our friend Troy from Mastodon to come and sing it.
Yeah.
Or, if something is a little more like Lamb of God, well, we can get Randy to sing it. Or, we can bring in female voices. We've had Lisa from Arch Enemy. We've had Christina from Lacuna Coil. So just, to be able to write for and perform with all these different voices is really exciting. And you don't have that opportunity if you play in a normal band situation where there's a designated vocalist.
Yeah, yeah. And because you're just like us, yeah, when you're rehearsing with different people, the process is obviously longer, but when you're just rehearsing uh the previous day before playing the show, I mean, you don't have to talk so much. You guys decide not to talk politics when you're
Oh, politics.
you
Yeah, no, we we
because
we we
because
we don't. I mean, there are a couple of us, in not so much in the core four, but certainly, when we do the big shows and we bring in a lot of guests, there are some that I know have very, very different political views.
yeah, like Bobby is pretty much a Republican, and Central
Yeah,
Sousa is like pro-Trump, and then Phil Anselmo was even accused of being a white supremacist. Well, I don't know if that's true,
which
but
is so not true.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. But
he's
it's
not.
still, I mean, but it's still is the combination. Some people might say, "Oh, this is weird," but it seems that you guys make it work.
Yeah, well, I think Phil was just, very drunk and being an idiot. But I could tell you, yeah, anybody can tell you
Yeah,
yeah, that's not him. But yeah, Bobby is uh out as a Republican, so I guess it's okay to mention him.
yeah,
And there's a couple others too. Uh, yeah, and it's why even argue about it? It's like there's no point. I think it's nice to have this situation where we're with folks that maybe we don't agree with on everything, but we can get along. We can get along just fine. We can get the job done. And I think the rest of the country should be more like that. It's gotten incredibly divisive. It's
yeah,
so unnecessary. And I've never seen anything like it. I never could have imagined this happening in the United States. I have there are people that I blame, but I don't want to cause controversy because the people that I disagree with will say, "Oh no," they
yeah,
blame somebody else.
yeah. But I know you're being very vocal about like your political ideas. I mean, I read your article from like the New Lines magazine that was
Oh,
published
thanks for reading it. Yeah.
2021, and the new one from like Substack.
Hmm.
Well, it was published in November.
Yep.
Of course, you have this like rap song like
Mhm.
Drum Sucks that is like it's a lot of fun. So
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, and it was a great
I mean, so
outlet.
some people probably didn't have a lot of fun like watching
Oh
it,
yeah, no, I'm still
hearing it.
getting people criticizing me for it, sometimes on random threads that have nothing to do with politics. Some article about an upcoming concert, or and somebody, they'll start ranting about. Yeah, I think it's funny. I think it's funny that, and these are people that laugh at other people who don't like Trump, and they they make fun of them. They make fun of them, and they say you know, oh, their feelings are hurt.
Yeah,
It's so sensitive. And then look at them. I do this song, and they just melt down. They are the snowflakes, and I think it's funny. And even when they insult me, I don't take it personally, and I actually I enjoyed the whole process of putting it out there and just the insults. I thought were hilarious. It's like, okay, it's funny. I can take it. Once it's out there, it's like it's not even me. You're making fun of guy doing the character in this rap video, which yes, it happens to be me, but it's more
Yeah,
like a cartoon version
yeah, yeah.
of one side of myself. And I thought it was funny. If you can do a good insult, they make fun of my hair. They make fun, and I enjoyed the jokes at my expense as much as the compliments, because a
So
lot of people
what's the deal with the hair? You just like you have this like yeah.
yeah, that just
I mean,
showed
but
up when I was very young, when I was still a teenager.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
the gray hair started coming in one streak, and I tried to get rid of it. It kept coming back, and I thought it was just going to go gray early, but it just stayed, and it just stayed in this one place, and it became my look.
yeah. No, it's very distinctive. Look, I mean, you look good. There's no problem with that. And I don't know I'm like in social media and everything, and then I just suddenly see a message from an old friend or whatever, and it seems to me, and it seems, and I think a lot of people believe that most of like metal fans are like into like right wing a lot. Do you think that's true? Do you think that it got like very conservative? Was it always conservative? I don't know.
It never used to be that way. There was always a sense that there was what you could call polite society, right? The parents, the teachers, the churches, the politicians, people with real jobs, people in suits and ties. And then there were countercultures. There was, in the Woodstock generation, of course, had the hippies and rock and roll. And when I was growing up and getting into heavy metal, it felt like that. It felt like, okay, there's the establishment, and even some people who had been part of the Woodstock generation, they were now becoming business people. They were becoming yuppies. They were, there's a famous guy, I forget, Michael Milken, perhaps, who was, this activist, anti-war activist who was on television, and then a few years later, he's a Wall Street trader, and just the complete opposite. But it always felt like, the metal movement was anti-establishment. It was this counterculture, and it was against all that. And part of it was, these causes that seemed more right wing, being clean, not using profanity. They wanted to label records, and I know some people try to blame Democrats for that because Tipper Gore was a part of the organization, but she was just one part. The majority of it was Republican, and it was more of a Republican coalition. And anyway, years later, it's just amazing. They don't, the right wing doesn't seem to care about rock and roll. A lot of the people in it that are right wing now grew up on heavy metal and rock and roll, and you have some musicians that, they're all in with the right way. I never imagined it, and it changed. I think some of them grew older and just got more conservative, and I think it just evolved over time. There's still a lot of folks that are scratching their heads, like myself,
Yeah.
and still have the belief systems. Yeah, we all evolve somewhat, but I still, believe in a lot of the things I believed in growing up, and I'm just what I have the biggest problem with is hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And I certainly will admit there is some hypocrisy from the Democratic side, but I think there's no comparison. I see much more of it on the right, and I'm still baffled that there are so many heavy metal fans that turn out to be right leaning.
I mean, but it's like because it's an aggressive music. I mean, that kind of aggression can go towards whatever, right? I mean, when you see, for example, in shows, people like just very acting like crazy in the mosh pit,
Mhm.
and then being in the mosh pit, like it's perfectly fine, but they just try to involve people that are like older guys that are like around trying to see the show.
Right.
It just so for some people it might seem that it's just they're not even like looking at the guys playing. I mean, it's just like an excuse to be aggressive. So it's kind of complicated. I think that's a general.
It really is. I mean, also, I think social media has changed people's behaviors. Um, the fact that we're so connected, that seemed like that was going to be a positive thing, and that
Yeah.
the truth, we would all agree on more because things are true. But unfortunately, it's easy to manipulate information. It's easy to provoke people, and that seems to be the majority of what's happening on the internet.
Yeah, yeah. So you seem pretty aware of what is going on, not only in the United States, but also in the world, because in your most recent article, you mentioned, right, the new like female president of Mexico, everything. I'm pretty sure that a lot of here in the United States don't even know who's the president of from Mexico. And I know that you went to the new school in New York, right? The new school is just like supposedly like committed to social justice and progressive thinking. So
Yep.
how important is to have some sense, because I suppose that a lot of, we're talking about metalheads, and of
Hmm.
course everybody can be great in whatever they do, but probably a lot of people that comes from like less fortunate like environments don't have access to schools, to universities. So
Hmm.
how important it's been for you to being able to go to school and to have like your parents, your father Jerome, that unfortunately passed away like
Hmm.
1 year ago. He was a professor at Yale, and it seems like he was a pretty smart guy, and he was very interested in social issues. So that makes a difference, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I grew up around but two academics. My mother's also has a PhD from Yale, and I was around this community that it was mainly university faculty people, and very, very smart. Like the top, these people, my father taught students from the top of their classes, like from all over the world. And like only the best and brightest got into his classes. So it was very intimidating in a way. And I didn't understand, his field. It's just a very, I might have mentioned this earlier. It's a very distinct field of sociology. And growing up, I didn't understand. It had no connection with popular culture. Um, it had no connection with the arts.
Mm.
And I was a big fan of the arts. I think I know now I had the sensitivity of an artist. So I was just a completely different type of person. So I didn't relate to it at all. And I always felt like there was pressure to go to college, but I didn't understand it. Like, why? Why would you go to college? Like, I don't feel like going to college. I don't like school. I'm not a particularly good student.
Mm.
And I now realize, well, I wasn't, I didn't have certain skills. Like I didn't have good, my part of it was I was such a creative person. It was hard for me to be in an environment where I'm stuck in a classroom being told what to study. And it's not really things I'm interested in. And I felt like, once I traveled the world and started reading on my own, then I really became educated. And then by the time I went back to school, I was almost 30 years old, and I was ready. And I became one of the top students. I was on the dean's list.
Nice.
I took it very seriously. Um, there's a great music program at the new school. It was the main reason I went there. But they also had, great studies in philosophy and current events and writing. And I was into all of that. A lot of my younger friends at the school, went straight from high school to college, and several of them didn't finish. They made their music connections, they took some classes, and that was it. But for me, it was very important to finish, to get my degree, and to do well, because I just wasn't in a. I think at that point I was ready, but when I was in my teens, I just I needed to see the world, and I needed to just get good at this instrument and do all the things that I wanted to do.
That's important too, right? Because it seems that a lot of people are like kind of forced to go from high school to college, and they're not ready. They're way too young. They don't even know what they want to do in life.
So
So
it happens all the time. You
if you
see
have to
so many.
if you have the chance to wait and then probably just take your time and then go to college later. I mean, it's a good idea, but it's not like it's not how the world works,
Well,
unfortunately.
now it's widely accepted too.
Yeah,
It's you can, even if you wait a year or two, it's called a gap year, and it's very accepted. At the time, this was not accepted. I took a 10-year gap year.
sure, sure, sure. So Alex, just to are you like are you hopeful about the future? I mean, being that all these bad things are happening, being that things are so crazy, uh, how do you feel?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I can't say I'm very hopeful. I'm very excited about things in my world that I'm working on. I'm excited about my new music. I'm excited about upcoming concerts. Um, I've gotten into I'm part of a organization that helps rescue cats and get them placed, and I really
That's nice.
enjoy animals and cats, and um yeah, I'm excited about things I like, and creative stuff, but the state of the world as a whole, it's really disturbing. And yeah, I'm trying not to let it affect me too much.
And then talking about
Because
that,
I don't know what else to do. There's, it's at a certain point, things are out of your hands. I do
but,
what
but,
I can,
but
but
you're doing something right. You're just writing articles, just like posting stuff in X.
yeah,
So
I'm
you're trying to show that you care at least. Yeah.
I'm trying to be honest. Yeah, I'm to share how I feel, and hopefully create something good for the world, and you know, make
You
make a
made
contribution in that way.
you made fun of that phrase like they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, and that was very insulting for us, like for the immigrant community. I mean, some people don't like that. Probably a lot of immigrants voted for Trump, but
They did. That's
that's great.
incredible. That's one of the things I'm at least hopeful about, is that
Yeah,
he can get to that level. Yeah, it's almost like a character from South Park.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It was like a scene. I thought of South Park a lot that last year during the whole election. I just thought, if this happened on South Park, it would be hilarious. And only on South Park or Family Guy or The Simpsons would you see something like this. But now it's happening. It's in real life.
Yeah, it's like a joke, right? Like a bad joke. So to go back a little bit and just to finish with music, that's what we're more hopeful about. As you say, the last Metal Allegiance album was released like 7 years ago. But I hear you guys are working in a new material. You still don't know. It's
We're
gonna be,
talking about working on
so you don't know what it's gonna be, like a song or like an
I don't
album or
know.
a
Yeah.
video. Yeah.
we're talking. It all begins with talking about it. But no, we haven't written a note. We're talking about the possibility
The
of it.
possibility,
That,
yeah. What
that's
about
it.
Testament? But no new
Testament is much
album.
farther along in that sense. We have a whole album written.
Oh
It is
yeah.
it is recorded. Um, it is just being there are parts that still need to be recorded, but the majority of it is recorded, and it will be ready within a matter of months, and
Oh
then
really?
it will come out in 2025 for sure. Yeah, I can
Are,
confidently say that.
are you trying something new, or is gonna be like the? I mean, because Testament has actually no, actually there was an evolution. The sound of the Testament got like heavier through the years, but that, I don't know what are you guys doing right now? If like you can,
Yeah, I think it's a great mix. I think it's got parts that might be familiar that sound like classic Testament. Um, for the last few records, my contributions tend to be a little, I wouldn't call them prog, but they're, musically adventurous. Songs like Code of Hammurabi or Day in the Death. So I have a song, um, it's gonna be I'm not gonna say the title yet, but
say it. Yeah.
and it's exciting. It's a Latin phrase,
Hmm.
uh, si non quam,
Mhm.
and which means without which not, and I mean, it's musically adventurous, but then there's songs that we collaborated on. Eric has some very fast songs that are just brutally fast.
Cool, cool.
But then there's a slow tune. We haven't done a real like
Yeah. Something happened with the connection. Oh, oh.
song in a while that I think stands up. So and that it just went over huge. So I think there's more acceptance of Testament doing a slow song. I think this one is really special, and I'm excited. It's got something really different about it. So
Okay,
that's coming.
that's great. That's great, man. We're gonna be waiting for it. Thank you very much for your time. And then, of course, you have like many other projects, or you keep him busy. That's the thing, right? You have to keep busy in order
Absolutely.
if not, your mind start like getting like.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of I want to do, and I work it. It's funny. I was an early bloomer with heavy metal. I was very good at a young age, but just that. And then I kind of feel like I'm a late bloomer with jazz
Mhm.
and some of the more virtuosic music. But it's really come together, and I want to make up for lost time. I have just a lot of music in my head that I'm constantly working on, and various projects. I don't know if I mentioned my trio has an album coming out as well.
All
Uh,
right. When is it coming?
that's coming relatively soon in the spring,
Okay.
and that's album's called "Prove You're Not a Robot," and we have a month-long tour coming up in March in Europe, and then hopefully we'll squeeze in some dates in the fall in the U.S. As soon as the Testament tour schedule is solidified.
Excellent, excellent, man. Thank you very much again, Alex, for your time.
Okay, thanks, Sergio. Appreciate it.